Hey everyone, so this Valentine's Day I really wanted to get a cute photo of all three kids, which is not easy when you have three little ones. Henry's helping me with the lighting. Anywho, so I'm going to show you Henry's sweet outfit. Valentine's Day, that holiday I think is like a perfect opportunity to be really creative, even push the cheesy line a little bit with your designs and embellishments and all that ooey gooey goodness. And then hopefully we can get ourselves a good photo. To begin, I cut out my pattern pieces. I've got two bodice fronts cut on the fold as well as two bodice backs cut on the fold. I also have these sweet little heart buttons that I'm going to play around with. Not exactly sure where I'm going to place those yet. I also have two sleeves, romper pants, both front and back pieces, and finally these red velvet trim and some red whipped stitch piping. Say that 10 times fast. I joined the bodice pieces together using the bodice ring method. This is where you arrange your bodice pieces front, back, alternating them, and then sew them right sides together at the shoulder seams. And just a friendly reminder, this is a creation by Mache pattern, which means the seam allowance here is 5/8 of an inch. After all the shoulder seams are sewn together, I iron the seams open, and the beauty of this bodice ring method is that when you place the two bodice front pieces together, that causes the bodice back pieces to fold onto themselves, leaving no seam down that center back, and everything is lined. It's so nice and neat. And from there, I moved on to the Peter Pan collar. I put the red whipped stitch piping around the outer edge at the seam allowance line, clipping the curves to allow the piping to bend smoothly. And then I put the collar lining right sides together and sew on top of those previous stitches that are securing the piping down to ensure a neat transition. After turning the collar right sides out, I trim up that seam allowance and clip the curves. Finally, I baste the two collars together to avoid a gap between them. And this is better done with a wide zigzag, but I'm just using a straight stitch on my industrial machine instead of getting up and using my domestic machine. It is a lazy mama moment. So then I baste the collars to the shirt, and finally I fold the shirt's lining back right sides together with the shirt, and I stitch around the entire neckline again. I finish that step by understitching the neckline, trimming out the seam allowance and clipping those curves and giving everything a really good ironing. Next, I sew the side seams together. I do the side seams of the shirt and then the side seams of the lining, each individually. And I love the idea of making this red velvet trim into suspenders. I think it's just precious. So I'm playing around with that and seeing how the trim wants to lay. I pin that in place and then I baste the ends to the shirt fabric only. I'm leaving the lining of the shirt out of these stitches. Next comes this darling red whip stitch piping on the bottom of the shirt, like where the waist seam will go later on. And I angle the edges of the piping off at an angle so the raw edges will be stitched over by the waist seam, concealing them. Alrighty, moving on to the romper bottoms. I join the bottom backs together at the crotch seam using French seams. I'm starting a few inches below since I need to put a placket in the back of the pant. Meanwhile, the front of the pants are joined at the crotch seam using French seams as well, but these start at the top of the pants and they go all the way around that curve. Since there is no need for a placket, I don't have to leave any gap. I've marked the pleats that go in the front of the pants with little clip marks, and when you are making these pleats, you'll just take the clip mark that's closest to the center front and fold it away from center front until it's in line with the next clip mark. And I repeat this for all of the pleats. There are 3 on each side of center front, and then I baste over top of these pleats. Next, I give everything a really good ironing, and then I put the placket into the back of the pants using the continuous placket method, which I have another video that details that method. And then the pant front and back are joined together at the side seams using French seams. And I set the pants aside for now and move on to those sleeves. The sleeves have these 4 little marks on the pattern, and honestly, I'm just kind of ignoring them. I guess they could be used for tucks, but instead I'm cutting up one of those marks so I can put a placket into the sleeve. Once again, I'm using the continuous placket method, and I think having this little pop of red into the sleeve is so fun. So next I cut a band out of that same red sateen fabric to go at the bottom of the sleeve, attaching some whip stitch piping at the top of the band. And then I run 2 gather stitches on both sides of the placket and then join the sleeve together using a French seam. So finally I gather up the bottom of the sleeve until it fits the band with about 1/4 of an inch or so overhang for the band on each end. From there I sew the band to the bottom of the sleeve and then iron up on the other edge of the band, and I put that right sides together so I can sew each end of the band. And then I ease the sleeves into the arm side. I have another video that goes over how to do this, and I attach the sleeves using French seams. Again, I have another video that goes over those details as well. So moving on to those pants, I gather up the back of the pants using 2 rows of gather stitches, and then I adjust those gathers until the top of the pants fit the bottom of the shirt, and I'm placing these right sides together, leaving the lining of the shirt out and sewing the 2 together. I also gather up the bottom of the legs using 2 rows of gather stitches, and I draw up the pant legs until they fit this 10-inch long piece of piping. The circumference of my son's legs measure about 8 inches, so this gives some wiggle room as well as some seam allowance. I attach the piping using 2 rows of straight stitches, spaced out about 1/8 of an inch, and then I place this trim on top of that and top stitch that in place. Finally, I sew the end seam together using a French seam, and after finishing the handwork, I had myself a completed garment. Happy Valentine's Day. It is Valentine's Day morning. Yesterday it was rainy, and so our pictures got postponed, and it's even overcast today and kind of cold and crap. You see my Valentine's Day eyeshadow? I'm trying to be festive. Anywho, so we're going to try to get some photos. I don't know how this is going to go.
Henry. Cupcakes!
Hands down. Stay right there. Daisy, don't look at the scratch. You got sugar.
So even though photos are a ton of work, I've never regretted taking photos. I love having them of the kiddos, and I think that this Valentine's Day was no exception. We got some sweet little photos, and I hope y'all enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, of course, put them down in the comments below, and I will do my best to answer them. And as always, I appreciate y'all for watching, and I hope to catch y'all next time.